27th, 2011. A man sits down at the end of the ramp, crisscross style, with a mic in his hand and just begins to talk. And usually this dialogue from a wrestling character on TV would be called a promo. But as he talks, it starts to become more apparent that this is more than just a promo. The character starts to do and say things that toe the line between fiction and reality. The character starts to mention and talk about things that aren't a part of the show. He starts to break the fourth wall in ways that other characters haven't done before, to the point where you almost realize you're not watching a character anymore. You're no longer watching a fictional world or fictional dialogue. What you are watching, what you're seeing unfold, just might not be a part of the show. This might not be something that you were meant to see. What you are watching just might be real. The whole concept of wrestling feeling real on paper honestly sounds like the most oxymoron phrase ever, because wrestling isn't like most sports or real competitions. What you're seeing these performers do 99% of the time is a complete performance. So wrestling acts more like a version of theater or a movie more than a true competitive sport. So no, these two men don't actually hate each other, and no, this man didn't actually set another man on fire live on television. These performers are simply trying to put on the best performance possible in order for the audience to suspend their disbelief and join the ride to be a part of the story of performance. As the main goal of a wrestler is to convince the audience to buy into the story that they are telling. And that aspect right there is something that makes wrestling a lot of the times more real than any television or movie. As the number one goal under any circumstance is to get the audience to buy into the performance, even if that performance has to temporarily become real just for them to buy in. If you can make the people buy in and believe in your performance, then it makes it more likely that you'll be a star in professional wrestling. And today, we're going to tell the story of a man who mastered the art of suspending the people's disbelief and the art of immersion. And whether it's to his detriment or to his benefit, a man who mastered the art of getting the people to buy in to everything that he said and did. In 2006, WWE would launch a new wrestling show under their branch called ECW. ECW, before being purchased by WWE, would actually be its own wrestling company that originally would blow up in the 90s due to its unorthodox style of wrestling. A style that was more underground, less professional, and, to put it perfectly, more extreme. And not only that, above all, the vibes from ECW would just make it come off more real. All until it would get purchased by WWE and rebranded in 2006. Now under WWE, the show would be treated more like a developmental show, and a show honestly for wrestlers who WWE felt weren't fit to be on the main brands Raw and SmackDown. On top of that, completely devoid of the realness and extreme that it had blew up for in the first place. With really one of the only good things about this show was that this is where you would see the start of the careers of a couple of future top stars. And one of those stars was CM Punk. A man who would debut in ECW already with the support of hardcore fans due to his independent wrestling run. A run where CM Punk would gain notoriety as this straight-edge punk rocker who could out-wrestle your favorite and put on amazing performances in the wrestling ring. So much to the point where on his first night of debuting, the crowd would break out in chants of CM Punk, chanting his name over and over again.
Search on the guy. You hear everybody here saying CM Punk.
In my opinion, there was just this beautiful poetry of the crowd immediately getting behind CM Punk, because in reality, he was everything that the former ECW represented and stood for. This underground wrestler who felt more real and more extreme, especially in a world of characters like the John Cenas and the Triple H's, these larger than life over the top characters with bodybuilder physiques. CM Punk being this more normally built alternative wrestler who looked and felt more down to earth of the people just made him this breath of fresh air. The number one goal of every professional wrestler and what they're fully trying to do is to make you believe. And the best way by doing that is for the wrestler to fully embody the gimmick or persona that they play. It's what makes the character come to life. But when it came to CM Punk, it wasn't ever really hard for him to do so, because CM Punk pretty much was his character. He was this punk rock kid who didn't drink or do drugs. He actually was straight edge, and most importantly, he genuinely believed he was the best in the world. And for those next few years, Punk's stock would rise. Punk would start to become a bigger star on television year by year and win championship after championship. But see, even with Punk beginning to rise, there was still a ceiling on how high he could rise. Because the fact of the matter was, while Punk was one hell of a talent, WWE still didn't see Punk as face of the company material. You see, during this time in WWE, going into the 2010s, WWE was going into its PG era, meaning the product would be fully catered to a younger audience, mainly children and families. Despite CM Punk being a truly captivating performer, with character range so crazy that he could go from being a fan favorite rebel of the people indie darling to a hated Puritan literal cult leader. Despite all the images CM Punk could betray, the one image he couldn't match was the image of the face of the company. You see, WWE usually has this certain image of its face of the company that they'd usually like to uphold and maintain. So to meet that image, you have to look a certain way, do certain things, and even talk a certain way. A way that makes you instantly marketable to any audience, especially children. So basically, in short, you'd have to become a walking, talking billboard, especially going into this PG era of WWE. And CM Punk didn't match that. He didn't talk like a poster child. He didn't look like a poster child. This alternative, non-babyface looking guy with tattoos and piercings didn't necessarily look like the guy you choose as your face of your newly PG, very child-friendly and catered company. CM Punk's market was more so adults. He more so gravitated to a older and more mature section of fans, and that's another thing that didn't line up with WWE's image of the face of the company. But that very thing right there would be the catalyst for CM Punk's biggest break and his magnum opus of his career. By 2011, people were starting to grow tired of this new PG era of WWE and this childlike cartoony world that WWE had turned into. And the one man who pretty much spearheaded and represented this new era was John Cena. See, John's character was pretty much the perfect role model, the quintessential Superman of the WWE, who was that representation for the younger audience and a role model for that young audience to look up to. Cena was pretty much almost the literal definition of the PG era, as Cena had pretty much became the main character of this new era. And because of that, while the kids loved him, the older and more mature audience hated John Cena. A whole group of disenfranchised fans who didn't really have many ways to voice their frustrations, but on one fateful night, the disenfranchised fans would finally find their voice. After winning the #1 contendership match to face John Cena for the WWE Championship, CM Punk would cost John Cena a tables match against R-Truth. And after a heel costing the babyface a match, usually what would happen is the heel just stands over the babyface or some forgettable half-baked promo. But that's not what happened on this night. CM Punk would grab a mic and would sit crisscross style on the end of the ramp, and he would begin to speak. And as he starts to speak, during his promo, he would start verbally ripping apart the company in a way that felt like no one in WWE has ever done before. He would start ripping apart management, his fellow wrestlers, and even his own fans.
I'm barely promoted. I don't get to be in movies. I'm certainly not on any crappy show on the USA Network. But the fact that Dwayne is in the main event of WrestleMania next year and I'm not makes me sick. Let me get something straight. Those of you who are cheering me right now, you are just the biggest part of me leaving as anything else. You're the ones that buy those programs that my face isn't on the cover of, and then at 5 in the morning at the airport, you try to shove it in my face so you can get an autograph and try to sell it on eBay.
The thing that made this promo so surreal was that CM Punk wasn't only referring or talking about things that happened in a fictional WWE storyline. Here, he's talking about things that actually happened. Something that never happened in WWE, especially to this extent. And it was at this point where the live audience and the people at home watching this promo started to wonder who was actually speaking here. Was this the persona of CM Punk saying these things, or was this the man behind the persona, Phil Brooks, speaking? Punk pretty much voiced every frustration disenfranchised fans had with the company in a way that felt as if you were watching a cartoon and the cartoon just suddenly stopped and looked at you and acknowledged your existence. This promo and everything about it felt real, and by the end of it, without Punk knowing it, he had just delivered one of the most important promos in wrestling history.
His stupid son-in-law and the rest of his stupid family.
No, that was...
The following program contains scenes of violence.
That was totally fucking not supposed to happen. Punk is gonna get so much. King is like, he wasn't supposed to say that stuff. Triple H fucking stupid. Said Vince McMahon, maybe the company... Did he say the company will get better if Vince McMahon dies? If that's not scripted, oh, holy shit.
Okay, let's go.
That right there was like the good reason to watch Raw.
Immediately after this promo, a large section of fans started to gravitate towards CM Punk because once again, in a world of theatrical and over-the-top characters, CM Punk felt as real and flawed as the average person. And in 2011, this would cause Punk's stock to rise nearly on the level of the person who was the poster child of the company at this time, John Cena. This would be the start of the Summer of Punk. The original term Summer of Punk spanned back to when he was a part of an independent wrestling company called Ring of Honor back in 2005, in which CM Punk won the company's world championship, condemning the fans after he'd won it, and would threaten and promise that he was going to leave with the world championship and take it to WWE, going so far to even sign his WWE contract on the Ring of Honor world title and coining himself the devil. This was the original Summer of Punk, which to this day is still regarded as one of the greatest Ring of Honor storylines of all time. So now in 2011, with CM Punk threatening to beat Cena, win the WWE title, and leave the company, it seemed like we were about to get another Summer of Punk, but this time in WWE. And what we would get was kinda. The only thing that would actually be Summer of Punk-esque about WWE's version of the story was CM Punk facing John Cena in Chicago for the championship in probably one of the most iconic WWE matches ever, beating him for the title and walking out of Allstate Arena with the championship like he said he would do. And while this whole thing would start with WWE amazingly blending fiction and reality with the story, it would start to devolve into the most monotonous writing ever when CM Punk would just come back a couple weeks after he left, and the whole thing would turn into this weird story of CM Punk's gripe with management to this odd story of CM Punk's beef with the COO of the company, Triple H, and Triple H's old buddy Kevin Nash for some reason. By this point, the WWE title wasn't even a focal point of the storyline anymore, and the whole CM Punk leaving thing just kind of got forgotten as the storyline just turned into retired veteran Triple H owning the young whippersnapper CM Punk. And hilariously, by the end of the story, CM Punk wasn't even involved no more. It was now just about Triple H versus Kevin Nash. And sadly, after this would pretty much be the peak of CM Punk in WWE, as they would turn him into a villain after this, making the voice of the voiceless now reject the fans. And while he would truly do amazing work after this just kind of confirmed that CM Punk was now back in the same position he was in before the pipe bomb. A trusty hand at the top of the card, but not on the level of a John Cena or protagonist and face of the company. Not even enough to main event a WrestleMania. As when CM Punk would lead the WWE in 2014, he would state in his famous podcast with Colt Cabana that him not getting a main event at WrestleMania, being the last match on the card, especially after his pipe bomb and becoming the hottest thing in the company in years, he still was never considered to main event a WrestleMania. This was a real gripe that not only the persona CM Punk had, but the man Phil Brooks had as well. And for pretty much 7 years, CM Punk would pretty much separate himself from professional wrestling, until a wrestling company by the name of AEW called CM Punk's phone. See, by this time in 2021, AEW was already 2 years strong, as they had bursted on the scene in 2019 as an actual competitor to WWE. For the first time since dang near the 90s, wrestling had another major American promotion other than WWE for wrestling fans to choose from. And around this time in 2021, AEW was experiencing a boom period, and that boom period would get even bigger when CM Punk would debut in AEW. On a random Friday night, the United Center would be completely sold out solely based off a rumor that CM Punk was returning to wrestling, and on that night, the Second City Saint returned back to the ring, but this time stepping foot in an AEW ring for the first time. Punk being in AEW just seemed like a match made in heaven because the very existence of it and the culture of AEW encapsulated and represented everything CM Punk's character was in WWE. CM Punk preached words of a revolution. CM Punk brought the vibe of an alternative, and that's what his character was in WWE. He gave you that taste of an alternative world of professional wrestling. So now, arguably the most alternative wrestler in WWE's history was now in the alternative company that he had basically manifested into existence solely with his pipe bomb back in 2011. And while you think this would basically be a fairy tale ending with CM Punk basically riding off into the sunset of AEW, that is unfortunately not what happened. I look at CM Punk's run in AEW as complicated for so many reasons, especially character-wise. You see, a constant criticism of CM Punk in AEW was that this wasn't the same CM Punk from the 2010s. He didn't truly act the same or say the same things no more. He didn't have that same anti-establishment vibe that he carried in his days in WWE. And to be honest, I actually would agree. But at the same time, I don't think I'd view that as a flaw on CM Punk's part, simply because the whole existence of AEW and CM Punk Punk even being there meant that the revolution had already concluded. CM Punk's quintessential prophecy from the pipe bomb promo had finally came to life, so what else was there for him to be angry about? Punk's character in WWE worked so well because there wasn't any alternative major pro wrestling company to challenge WWE at that time. So Punk's preaches and his promos during that time brought this hope and optimism of almost a greater future. But now we were in that future. And honestly, I'll say the quiet part out loud, CM Punk by this time had become such a big name in the wrestling space and the wrestling world that he was no longer anti-establishment anymore. By this time, CM Punk now was the establishment. And the most beautiful of ironies, CM Punk had become the dynasty that allegedly threw his weight around that he originally criticized his colleagues and WWE management for back in 2011. And the reason that I say that is because that was almost exactly the story of nearly every one of his rivalries in AEW. Almost all of his opponents would say the same thing about CM Punk. They would all relay the same message to the fans about CM Punk, that he was possibly a backstage tyrant. The only thing he cared about was himself, money. Basically, CM Punk was the modern day Hulk Hogan. And because AEW was more of a raw form of professional wrestling and more unscripted during promos and dialogue especially, it got to the point where you started to wonder, was this a storyline or was this real? Were these the personas talking to the persona of CM Punk? Or were these real life men telling their real life stories and experiences with the man behind the character, Phil Brooks? Because as fascinating as wrestling is as an entertainment and art form, it is also just as real. And sometimes it can become a little too real. And unfortunately, that's what happened. Wrestler Hangman Adam Page would make a remark about CM Punk during a promo segment, claiming that CM Punk didn't really stand for workers' rights, and insinuating CM Punk had got former friend Colt Cabana fired from AEW. This would create a snowball effect, starting real life tensions between CM Punk and the EVPs of the company at the time, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, resulting in CM Punk tearing apart the Bucks, Hangman, and Omega for real after an AEW pay-per-view during the media scrum. What happened moments later was what people would refer to as Brawl Out, as CM Punk, the Bucks, Omega, and one of CM Punk's friends got into a real-life fight and scuffle backstage, as the whole thing would just dissolve into this very unprofessional feud and back and forth disses that the men would constantly just send at each other's ways. And it would all end with CM Punk getting into another backstage altercation with wrestler Jack Perry in mid-2023, and this would be the end of CM Punk in AEW and the very real tensions that lived backstage while CM Punk was there. But as another door closes, another one opens, and that very same year in 2023, CM Punk would make his long-awaited return to WWE after 10 years. And once again, even in WWE, the story immediately became the real-life narrative around CM Punk's name. The narrative of him being hard to work with, him being a controversy maker, his past skeletons in the closet, that pretty much became his story in WWE and all of his rivalries, with pretty much each one feeling just as real as the ones in AEW. Because just like the ones in AEW, in a way they were. Even CM Punk's story of never main eventing WrestleMania, a real life gripe that CM Punk had with the company, and probably the number one reason that he left the company in the first place. This time around, CM Punk would finally main event WrestleMania, a story of not only a wrestling character or persona, but a story of the man himself. CM Punk's career is probably one of the most unique wrestling careers of all time, just based off of how unique it is. CM Punk is probably the first and the last of his kind we'll ever get in professional wrestling. And you can honestly say whatever you want about Punk, but one thing you can't deny is his ability to connect with fans and his ability to create controversy. Whether it's a promo ripping apart WWE management in 2011 or a promo about him ripping apart TKO management in 2026, I don't think there's too many wrestlers you can say that brings that real and raw vibe to professional wrestling like CM Punk. And that's truly the reason as to why CM Punk is such a legend to me, because the same reasons why certain fans hate him is also the same reason why certain fans love him.